Hey guys, this is part 2 of a 2-part story. Part 1 came out last year. If you haven't listened to it yet, I'll do a short recap here, but you can of course go and check out that episode for the full backstory. Also, there's some curse words that I didn't bleep in this episode, so if that's a thing you like to know about, there you go. Okay, now here's the $5 Couch part 2, Making a Song. Hi, and welcome to The Perfect Show. I'm your host, Scott Maupin. I'm what you might call a perfection prospector, sifting through life looking for little things or experiences that could be considered perfect. Join me each episode as I examine one topic that I'm presenting as a little nugget of perfection. This is a story of procrastination. How long can you put off something before you ultimately make yourself do it? I routinely will procrastinate every way possible and drag the process out for an absurd amount of time. You've heard some of those on this very show. Now we come to another one that I've drug out for years. That's unfortunately not new, but this is the first one where I've procrastinated beyond the bounds of the actual episode I meant to do it in, spilling over into a part 2. And also my first time stretching out the telling of a story so long it spills well into the next year. In part 1, I brought you the story of my $5 couch from college, and how amazing it was for all the years that I had it. Then I set out in search of new $5 items to fill a similar function for me now. I ended up with a 60-year-old chord organ and an 8-foot-long leather bullwhip, along with the brilliant idea to make a song for the podcast with them, despite not having any song-making history, skill, or ability. So I also enlisted the help of another podcast. That's right, not only did I procrastinate larger than the bounds of a single episode and longer than the bounds of a single year, but I procrastinated out wider than the bounds of a single podcast and looped another show into my nonsense. In part 1, Nick Messitte and John Burkholtz from the podcast Nick and John Make a Song gave me a little help with how to make my song and even offered to work with me on it when I got something a little more together. Initially, I'd gone about the absolute lowest effort path, where I flicked on the organ and just tried winging it, pressing keys and making chords at random or basically random to hopefully find some harmonies or something worthwhile. I played some of those last episode, but it was clear to me that just noodling around was not going to be a path to a song. I use the voice recorder app on my phone all the time to record myself when I have ideas for the podcast, so I decided maybe I could use the same system for songs. When a melody or something song-related would pop into my head, I would rush to get my voice recorder open and get myself singing or humming it before it was gone. Listening back, some made more sense than others. Most of these are me singing, humming, or beatboxing badly, but if I happened to play something I liked on a toy xylophone that was laying around, I'd try to record that too. And I just sort of continued on this way, noting whenever a tune popped into my head, and since I've been working on this quest for a while now, I've been recording song ideas for a while too. Alright, theme song idea. And then, famously, some of the best ideas for anything really do strike in the shower. And I hope we all know by now to never convince yourself that, oh, this idea is so good, I'll definitely just remember it. So when the next song idea I had happened in the shower, I played defense by singing the simple hook over and over to hold on to it, and came right out to find my voice recorder before it shifted or changed on me. I like this one. In fact, I think I hear some potential maybe in both the shower one and the xylophone melody from earlier. What I needed to do next, though, was to play them on the Bon Tempi chord organ somehow. So I went with a crude but effective system where I put tape on each of the organ's keys and then numbers on each piece of tape. I numbered the keys left to right from 1 to 15. Note by note, I worked through the melody, then I noted down on a post-it note a series of numbers that told me how to play it back. It's a pretty crude transcription, to be sure. It lacks the visual arc of the notes in the melody. It also lacks any pacing information, like how long to hold each note. But that's not the part I was worried about losing. I could always go back to my voice memo for that. This was just about where to put my fingers when. I called it Shower Song because it came to me in the shower. I know, titling things is my passion. My daughter heard me and came by to see what I was up to. She liked that she could follow my post-its and play what I had just been playing simply by reading along, and it was actually drawing her in. Now, I've seen this kid in piano lessons, and this was getting at something different for her. We were having such a good time actually fleshing out the song and the notation for it that it took up the better part of a whole Saturday morning. And then the following day, my daughter was at the organ playing around and came up with her own original melody that I liked. I grabbed a notepad and pen, and together we worked through her tune and also got that transcribed down into my little number system. Here's what that one sounded like. It's short, but it also seems like it could make a loop to use however long you need. So that made 3 melodies to work with: the xylophone song, the shower song, and now my daughter's. She titled hers Rain Song because the vibe it gives her is like the rain, she said, or specifically like waiting out in the rain in a Studio Ghibli movie. And even before she said that, when she had said Rain Song, the image that immediately popped into my head was the exact scene from My Neighbor Totoro, where the kids are waiting next to the big furry Totoro creature at the bus stop out in the rain. This audio you're hearing now is from that scene in My Neighbor Totoro, and the melody of hers is totally different. It's just the vibe, though. I do think that rain vibe is pretty similar. But I still felt like it was good to check it because, one, we both sort of identified that same scene from that same movie as like a visual pairing for the song. And two, I really don't want to spend all this time and effort thinking I'm making a new song when I'm really just recreating one from somewhere in my memory. I mean, the whole point here is that I make something new myself. Though, now that I think about it, how do you check that? Is there a way to find out? Like, to cross-check a melody against the history of music? Do you just wait for someone to tell you that this is already a song that they know of? The next step in the task would be to get the pieces of these 3 things recorded, like I did with the rain song before, and fine tune them all the best I can before sending them up the line and asking for help. And for that, I'm going to be diving into some new software. To make this show, I take the audio that I've recorded in different ways with various devices, and then I edit and assemble that in a digital audio workstation, which I'm going to shorten to DAW from here on out. DAW as in DAW for Digital Audio Workstation. I've assembled every previous episode of this show in a DAW called Adobe Audition, and that's the Photoshop company. And it's the program I've used to move all the stuff around and adjust the levels and build the show each time. And it works well for those long narrative episodes, but it's not really built for music. For that, I'm going to need a different DAW. So, hearing that Nick and John use a program called Reaper, I decided to give that one a shot. And then while I work on these episodes, I usually listen to instrumental music to add mood or just atmosphere while I write or edit. For me, that usually means film scores or movie soundtracks. And this time I was listening to Yann Tiersen. He's the musician who did the soundtrack to the French movie Amélie in 2001. And that it's an album I've heard every song on like exactly 1 gajillion times before. However, this time I noticed the melody of one song as it's playing, and suddenly I'm like, oh, I think I recognize that. Here's the clip from the Amelie soundtrack called La Dispute. See, that sounds like the xylophone song to me. Do you hear what pinged my brain? What about the chord organ version I recorded? And now with Yann's track sped up and layered on top. What do you think? I don't know, maybe I'm reaching. But now, not only was I unsure about how to really make songs, I was also fully worried about my songs being accidental ripoffs of other songs and how to even know where that line was. I don't know a lot of musicians I can really consult on these types of things, but I do know a lot of podcasters. And one podcaster in particular is very open about how he makes his own music for his show. Alex Goldman and his team make an excellent podcast called Hyperfixed, which I talked about a couple of episodes ago as my review and recommendation. But Alex also makes a lot of the music for the show himself, and he does it in his home studio using various instruments, synths, and audio pedals. Hi, Alex. Can I ask you to introduce yourself on mic?
Yeah, my name's Alex Goldman. I am the host of the Hyperfixed podcast and previously the host of the Reply All podcast. Although you are not here to talk to me about that, as I understand.
No, I am not. I'm here to talk about some music questions because I have some music problems here. So I wanted to talk to you about music for your podcast. So have you been making any podcast music lately?
Yeah, actually, but I mean, I have to make music for basically like I've got, probably 25 music cues, but music cues are really dependent on the emotion you're trying to convey. And I'm constantly coming up against new emotions that I am trying to convey in the show. So I'm constantly needing to write new music. Like it's kind of a never ending process.
So what is your process when you're making music? Like what comes first?
For the podcast specifically, my process is, oh, this is a moment that needs this kind of music. And it's either like, there used to be a thing we called it Reply All, we called it motion music. And it was like music that is kind of neutral in terms of tone, but like it feels like walking around, like it feels like movement. And so there's a lot of motion music being made, but every once in a while you have to make something that's like sad or happy or angry or silly. And that is usually the sort of guiding star for what I'm trying to do. That's not the same process I use when I'm like making music for fun. It's just like, I'm like, okay, well, I need a quick instrumental thing. And usually the way I do it is I just make loops. I will make like a melody that I like and maybe a drum beat that I like. And I will try and sort of layer them in ways that are conducive to being on the radio. Because again, it's a situation where like it needs to be prominent enough that it conveys the emotion you're trying to convey, but is not so obtrusive or intrusive that you end up getting in the way of the thing that you're making, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes perfect sense because I've had that problem that I've tried to do for my own show, and I definitely understand what you're saying. Yeah. With Hyperfixed, Alex is a much larger part of composing music for the episodes than he was for Reply All, and I asked about what drove that shift.
When we were making music for Reply All, Tim Howard, our editor, used to make a lot of it. And I was busy doing other stuff. But now it's like we're such a small group that like there's no one else on the show that really makes music. And not every Breakmaster Cylinder scoring cue is conducive to what I'm trying to accomplish. So I just kind of was like, well, I know how to do this stuff, so I might as well do it myself. Also, I would say that like in the past, however long since Reply All, I've gotten much better at making my own music.
Well, my next question, I think you've already answered because I was just going to say, do you make your songs ahead of time and then plug them in, or do you make them when you have segments of the show where you decide you want a certain vibe and then create music for that?
the actual song titles are usually unique to the episode that I make them for. So there's a lot of things that are called so-and-so's theme, person's theme, John's theme, Astrid's theme. I've got a lot, Scott's theme. I've got a lot. I actually do have a Scott's theme. And it's just like, I'm in the process of making the episode and I'm like, this needs a piece of music that doesn't exist yet. But then once I make it, I'm like, oh, well, this can slot into a lot of different things. And also, it's hard making a lot of music for an episode. So usually I'm doing one new song, if that, for an episode. I'm not like cranking out 15 new songs for each episode, you know?
Do you prefer making songs for like an album versus making songs for the podcast, one or the other, or is it just different? How do you feel about those two?
I like making songs for the show because of the speed with which I have to move. I think that being forced, like having a deadline, is really helpful to me when it comes to getting music done,
Awesome.
getting anything done, really.
Okay, so here's sort of the main thing I want to pick your brain about. When you're coming up with a song or a melody, how do you know if it's something that you just came up with, or if you're just recreating someone else's music from somewhere in your memory?
I think that if you are not a celebrity, it doesn't matter. I
Really?
believe strongly in the concept of interpolation. Like, you should be able to interpolate other people's music, different recording styles, different vibes, like create a different song, even if there's like a bit of the melody there. So I don't worry about it too much.
Here's what I'm running into. It's like I'm writing something, I'm trying to write a song, and I came up with a little middle piece, and I was like, oh, this is a nice bridge. It's like da 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 da.
Oh, that's Heart of Glass, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, it's Blondie's Heart of Glass. I'm just copying that melody. And so that's where I'm like, how do I keep that from happening, like when I don't recognize where I got it from?
Here's the thing. In most modern pop music, unless you're like doing microtonal music or something, you have 12 notes, 12 semitones to work with. That's not a lot. You can layer those on top of one another and you can make a lot of different chords and so on and so forth. But you're going to start running into stuff that sounds like other people's stuff pretty quickly. And I'm sort of the opinion that, like, unless you're Bruno Mars, unless you're making music that's like for mass consumption, you're allowed to borrow, especially if you're making it with like a different instrument or something that makes it feel significantly different. What has sparked this concern for you? I want to know more.
Well, I'm not a music person. I'm not a music making person in general. And so my task for this episode, and I guess the two episodes that it became, has been just to make some music for my pod, because I was buying music on Fiverr every episode. I like scoring. I like getting new music, but I started running into people who are now generating music for AI, especially at the low price points I was doing. And I don't want to use AI. I don't like it. So I was like, maybe I can make my own music. And I bought some instruments, and this is my task. So I'm like, oh, I'll come up with some melodies. That'll be no problem. And then I'll just play them and make songs. And every piece of it has been more challenging than I guess I anticipated. So
what has been challenging about it?
Coming up with something I think is a satisfying song, translating that song into notes on an instrument, and then the mixing and mastering of that into something that sounds remotely usable, I guess. So
I mean, yeah, what you're attempting to do, I've probably spent 15 years trying to figure out how to do, and I'm still not very good at it. I get help a lot.
I have hamstrung myself a little because the instruments I've chosen are, let me grab one real quick. Hold on.
What is that?
It's a chord organ. It's a Bon Tempi chord organ from the 70s. It works kind of like an accordion, but instead of you moving the bellows with your hands, it plugs in as a little fan.
I know those from Daniel Johnston.
I got this one for $5. I'm trying to do this out of things I got for $5. It turns on. There's a little fan that whirs up, And then it kind of has a...
Oh, it sounds amazing.
With some chords over here. So it's really fun.
It sounds so good.
Yeah, it's a really fun guy. So I'm using that and an 8-foot-long leather bullwhip, and I'm trying to make this up with those two things.
Okay, yeah. You're really doing this on hard mode. There are much easier ways to do this.
That continues to be the most common response I get when I tell people what I'm trying to use to make music.
There are also a lot of people who make what are called VSTs, which are virtual somethings, which are just basically like computer versions of instruments. So I have one that's like a kalimba. I have one, there's a free downloadable one that the BBC made of like instruments in the BBC Symphony Orchestra. So you can like, it doesn't sound like, when you put them all together, it sounds like samples of instruments, but you can make cello sounds, you can make violin sounds, and you can make them like plucked, or you can make them played with a bow. Like there's a lot of different options. And so I really like that. I use those virtual instruments a lot. There's also like Ableton comes with like 15 different sort of organ and like electric piano sounds from like the 70s, and I use those a lot too.
Nice.
So that is an option. You don't necessarily have to be, you can still like actually compose stuff like you're playing a piano. Why is my voice cracking today? Like you can keep that in if you want. Like you can play stuff like a piano, but you don't have to be actually playing your chord organ that you bought and then trying to do it that way. So I will like, sometimes to give stuff texture, I will put, I'll play like a synthesizer, and then I'll replay the same sound using a virtual instrument. And then it just gives it a little heft. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier than, just doing everything from scratch. That's like the brute force way of doing it.
Yeah, I was thinking of maybe sampling the chord organ and trying to do a version that way. And
that's also very possible. You could like take a note and then transpose it to different. I've done that before too. You can even do that with your voice. You can make chords with your voice. You can sing a note, and then suddenly your voice is an instrument, as long as you sort of pitch it up or pitch it down. It tends to sound kind of otherworldly, and I really like that. So
I like that. Yeah. Thank you for coming on the show, Alex. I appreciate your time and advice, and for stopping by. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This has been a pleasure.
And then I did have one more clip of Alex that I wanted to include here for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
You can chop it up so that I'm saying really, really unbelievably offensive stuff if you want. You can do whatever you wish.
All right, I'll just tuck that away for later. But anyway, Alex helped a lot in updating the way I was thinking about this quest. He made some excellent points. Everyone does this, it's a part of music, and it's a part of time. There are only so many notes, so many combinations. A little overlap should not be a deal breaker. Everything is old, everything is new. It doesn't matter. I just need to make stuff. For recording day, I placed my post-it notes, mic'd up the chord organ, and got out any other little instruments or noisemakers in my space. I put a metronome from my phone on in one earbud while I clanged my way through the melodies on the organ a few times each, trying to follow the tempo and the post-its simultaneously. Then in Reaper, I lined up the different takes and versions and tried to build the best combo version of each one with what I had. 2 problems with this. First, my different takes weren't exactly what you would call consistent. Even with the metronome in my ear constantly, I found that from take to take, I would hold notes slightly longer or play them a little closer together. The other problem I was having was the overall sound of my recordings. And by that, I mean, they didn't have the robust sound I think of as a full song. I just had like these 3 stringy melodies. With an orchestra, one melody is handled by many different instruments that are also creating harmonies and chords that really beef up the sound, with orchestration. But by itself, it just sounds, well, thin. I tell myself that bringing in the other instruments will help with that, so I went and listened back to some of my best whip noises that I recorded out at Lake Merritt, and I started laying whip cracks over organ notes and then pitching and bending them. I even got a little bit of granular synthesis in the mix on one song, which is a technique that Nick and John introduced me to last episode. I placed the whips as best I could, which is not a brag, and added some of the other percussion recordings, but I don't know that I was making the songs any better. I mean, I was definitely making them busier. There were more notes being hit by more things more often, but it just kept seeming like no matter how much I tried to work the audio, the elements were competing against each other, not cooperating with each other. See? Does this need more things? Fewer things? I feel like a real musician would know what to do here instinctively. Hello?
Yeah, my name's Alex Goldman.
Yeah, Alex, I know. What can I do for you? I'm kind of in the middle of...
I am the host of the Hyperfixed podcast.
No, I know that, but...
What is that?
Well, I'm just playing one of my songs right now.
Oh, it sounds amazing.
Oh, you think? I was just saying I thought it was getting too janky, but you don't think so?
God, it sounds so good.
Wait, is that sarcasm?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I think it stinks.
Okay.
I don't like it. I think that it is I think it is I think it is against...
All right. Okay, Alex. Okay.
How do I say that without sounding polemic? I don't know if I can. I think it is like...
All right.
Really just an affront to creativity and an affront to art.
All right. Goodbye, Alex. Goodbye.
You can keep that in if you want.
Goodbye. So I re-listen and retweak things until I've heard the song so many times that now everything sounds off in some way. Or it's possible, maybe even likely, that at this point I actually have adjusted all the pieces enough so that everything really is off in some way. It's not an illusion. Adding more instruments to the mix might have been a bad strategy, or I might have just been totally the wrong guy to pull it off. Either way, when I think I've run out of tweaks to make, I send the files over to Nick and John along with this. Hey, Nick and John, this is Scot, reaching out to let you know that I am finally at the point where I can share something with you. I'm super slow, and what I ended up making was not like a full song per se, but I got like 3 different fragments of stuff that I've been working on. The first one, it continues, but basically I asked them for any help or advice they could give. And then just one short, long time jump later, Nick Messitte and I hopped onto a call to talk about my silly songs. And in classic Scot fashion, we started small talking immediately, which means I completely forgot to do a typical opening introduction for Nick. So for my first clip, we are already mid-conversation, and I managed to baffle Nick right away with, let's call it my process.
All right, so we're looking at this Reaper session. You're not tempo synced or anything. These are just like you figuring out the beat.
Not only am I not tempo synced, I don't know that I fully understand what tempo synced means. What is tempo syncing then?
I mean, just sort of like deciding that you want your song to be at such and such BPM, like 110, 120, or, you pick a tempo for it.
Oh, I think I did. I mean, I tried to, when I was playing it, I was listening in my headphone to a metronome that was going at a certain pace. Is that...
The metronome wasn't in Reaper?
No,
okay.
I wasn't recording the metronome.
No, Reaper has its own... It's okay. I shouldn't laugh. Reaper has its own metronome so that you can do that in Reaper, and it won't record the metronome. So the metronome gets routed to your headphones. It's just called the click. I believe the shortcut for it is K. So if you hit K right now...
I mean, now that we're saying this, I probably should have recorded this in Reaper. What I did was record it on a Zoom recorder and then bring it in later and try and chop and move everything around.
That's a great way to learn. And I remember listening to this and being like, it's in time, It's like there was like one kick I was like, oh, I'd move that kick a little bit. But let me hear it. Let's hear the first one.
I'm sorry in advance, but here you go.
I remember. It's pirate music.
That's just a little. I mean, it's not. I don't know that it's even a song. It's just 20 seconds of a thing that I'm trying to figure out how to.
Yeah, but
know.
I mean, like that's all you need for an intro.
I don't. I mean, I don't know what I expect you to, other than to be like, I heard it and it sounds like what it was. But
Well, I believe your goals are make it not sound like a pirate shanty, right?
I mean, moving it farther away from Pirate Shanty is a good sort of destination, I think. And there's actually, I guess I have 3 little tunes.
Oh yeah.
So I've also got this. This one is far too long, but it just kind of just builds, but so slowly it's almost gonna make you fall asleep.
Okay, all right.
And then it just
And
kind
let's
of
hear the
repeats
third
in
one.
variations. Oh, the third one then,
Yes,
the shower song.
the shower song.
That's the granular synthesis you taught me.
You know what this reminds me of, actually?
Please tell me.
This reminds me of anytime Drake sings. You know what I mean?
That was not a reference I was coming with. Nice.
But it does, like, you know how his melodies are like, and I go to the store, and I'm thing, and I know, and I'm got, it's like, it's very much like that. I like the second one. I think the second tune and the first,
Okay.
the second one has like the most drama to it, and it's
Yeah.
definitely like a Sarah Koenig is talking about why she doesn't think Adnan did it, or does think that, you know what I mean? So let's start with that organ.
Okay.
So,
What can I do, Nick? How do I
so
make
much.
this- Really?
There's so much you could do. Yeah. So what do you want to happen to this thing?
I don't. I guess maybe mellow it out so it's less intrusive if I want to use it as background noise.
Okay. Well, let's start with
background
re-EQ.
Okay.
Have you ever used an EQ before?
Yes, a little bit.
If you play it, let's take a look at the spectrograph and see what it's doing. So, if you look at that graph, everything that's at the bottom of it is low frequency, and everything at the top of it, it's just low to high.
Okay.
And you got 4 bands in by is it five bands in by default, but the fourth one right now is your top band. If you bring that down, like down on that axis, I forgot which one of that is X or Y. Yeah, and then in, that'll take out top and mellow it down. So let's hear what that sounds like.
Oh yeah.
So that's the
Kind of
basics
muffles
of
it.
that muffles it. And if you did it if you took 1 EQ.1 and raised it, what this is like a volume control for each individual frequency of the sound.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Let's see what that does. Now, I'm a little disappointed that it doesn't have more of a drastic effect, because most EQs do. If you go back to that thing that says item effects and just press it again. So you've got a whole bunch of different things here. Let's go to filters. And let's go to isolator 3 and see what happens. All right, move controls around, see what happens.
Oh, whoa. And then
Wow, move it around while it's playing.
yeah, that kind of whammy bars it. That's interesting.
So congratulations, you now have 400 effects like this
Okay.
that you can play with. So that was like, you can create a wah-wah like that, or like a wow.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
But let's like try something else. Let's go to, so
Where
like,
else?
how about XYZ filters? Those are some really dirty things. Pick one.
Z-Pan Pass 2.
All right. You're going to really want to crank the input and pad the output. Pad means turn down. So let's hear Oh,
Crazy.
okay.
No, is that too much?
No, I'm just going to turn down my volume real quick.
Oh,
Now turn the
should I
output.
turn down my volume?
No, you'll be fine. Turn on the
What have I
output.
done? Here's where I will interject that Nick was lying to me there. So I've gone ahead and turned down the noise that's about to happen significantly in post. You're welcome.
All right, let's press play.
No, that's not that's not a good sound.
No, but it's a fun grungy
It's
sound.
grungy.
You might have also accidentally auto muted is another thing that could have happened there. Now mess with the frequency.
The frequency. Now it's a shipping cargo container.
Yep. I mean, so these are all. So all right. So
any of these is going to drastically change the sound of my.
Some more than others. Like if you go to Galactic, which was the first thing it was. Like if you open another instance of this, and now here, play.
Oh. Just kind of just reverbing it and delaying it.
It's a very big reverb, yeah. Or
because I hit stop and I was like, I did hit stop, right? It's continuing the reverb.
But there's more you can do. So basically, what I've given you here is like a toolkit that for weird shit, and you have a toolkit for not weird shit.
Okay.
Already in Reaper. The whole point of this is like, look, there are essentially two things that you can do to a sound, right? You can fuck with its volume or you can fuck with its timing. Okay. Everything boils down to that. When you're using EQ, you are fucking with the volume of every frequency. When you're using reverb, you are smearing the timing and making a big reverb thing. So that's like, everything boils down to that. And then from there, you got to sort of figure out like, well, what do I want this sound to be? Do I want it to be an electric guitar? Like, how would I get it to be an electric guitar? Do I want it to be a bass? How would I get it to be a bass? You know, I think for someone who's just starting out and has a bit of a sound design editing background, that is the way I would do it, is just think about the instrument you want it to be and then like ask my help for getting it there as you learn. I'm sorry that it's not a faster thing, but
not at all. Please, I really appreciate you taking the time, and I hope this isn't a waste of your time too. Because
I'm having fun. I'm having fun. It's just
It feels like I'm like the preschool. I'm like you're walking me through the very first steps, and I'm like that must be frustrating, but I very much appreciate it. So
I mean, I'm used to it from teaching, so it's all good. But that's like I think that's the vibe, right?
Should I think of like messing with each of the sounds, each of the tracks individually, and then trying to build something? Or should I try and build something and then mess with the song after I've got it sort of structured? What would your advice be on how do I go about this if I'm coming from a place where I'm not like a natural musician?
Ask yourself what this song is supposed to do and what the instruments in the song are supposed to be doing as well.
Okay.
So start with that. Like, is this your intro? Is this like while you're trying to figure something out? Like, you've come up with different organ lines in registers in a minor key. You've got like 1, 7, 5, which is 5, 1, 7, ba da 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 da. Right? Like that's it's very simple and very effective at creating this like whimsy thing, especially since it's being played on an organ or this wind organ. And so the question is sort of like, all right, you've got, what is this bass one supposed to do? What is the one above it supposed to do? What is the third one supposed to do? What's the whip supposed to be doing? What's the egg? Like, what am I supposed to be getting out of these things?
Gotcha. All right. I'll do it.
I mean, this shit, it is going to take time. There's no way, there's no shortcut.
There's no shortcut, looks like maybe the other major lesson I'm learning from this quest, too. I thank Nick for taking the time to come on the show and for working with me on music, and he said I could send him new versions or questions when I need help. But listening back to them with Nick, I was actually kind of surprised at how janky they still were. I mean, I did the best I could when I was recording them, and then I put a ton of time and effort into moving the pieces around and tightening them up, and I remembered being happier with them, but listening now, I felt super embarrassed by my attempts, and more than a little discouraged. It's clear that I'm definitely not as far along as I hoped or thought I was, and digging back in to try and unbend all the crooked fence posts in the audio was sort of the last thing I wanted to do. But it was also the next step toward my finish line. And then, after putting that off as long as I could again, one weekend I finally had all the pieces lined up and decided to give it an actual go. I cleared my schedule for the entire day, had the Reaper session with all the files already on my computer, the table full of instruments to record new takes, recorders, microphones, cables, headphones. I spread the post-it notes out on the Bontempi chord organ again, and man, it all felt like a prison. And I realized the first time I was doing this, I was just sort of forging my way ahead with no constraints or blueprint. And it was fun. Now it's different. Now the boxes have already been drawn, and I'm just trying to redraw them in the exact same places and make sure I don't forget any. It's become an obligation. Does that make sense? Sort of a restrictive burden, where before it was creation and outburst, now it's recreation and responsibility. I went to the computer and tried noodling around on the digital files like Nick had showed me, and same thing. I was really having to force myself to do this thing, a thing that I'm making myself have to do in the first place, to finish a task I set for myself, to jump over this hurdle of my own design that no one else is invested in. I did think maybe I'd take to music better than I have, which, of course, I mean, if I were secretly a musical prodigy, I probably would have already discovered that before now. I also think I was trying to be clever by putting hard things that I'm not as motivated to do, like learning music, practicing music, and playing music, as building blocks I had to use to make the thing I am motivated to do, which is a podcast episode with a satisfying beginning, middle, and end. I think the me thinking I was clever part of that was that if I wanted this to work out as a pod, and I do, then it would force me to figure out the music thing somehow, because without it, there is no ending. But that was, of course, a silly thing for past Scot to do to future Scot, and a crazy ask. I will always be fascinated by music making in some ways, in part because I find it so unsolvable, but that's not the thing that pulls me back to this. When I found myself antsy to get back to working on this episode, I noticed I wasn't ever itching to move around pieces of the song. I was wanting to rearrange or add pieces of the story, to add little bits or trim down clips, to do everything except the main thing. But let's check that, because I think I may have gotten lost along the way. What is the main thing here? Become a musician? No. Learn how to play music? Not even really this. Be able to play a song, like all in one go? Yeah, no. Don't use AI to help solve this music making quest. This one's still important to me, maybe the only one that I've actually stuck to. Make podcast songs all on my own. Now, this was an interesting point. Certainly, selfishly, my ego wanted me to be able to go, oh yeah, I record songs where I do every part myself, and then I use them to score my podcast where I also do every part myself. And it all works out so nice and easy, and I don't need anyone, no sir. But it hasn't been nice or easy, and I've already called on 2 people for their help and still feel very far from my goal. I've also spent more in terms of time and energy than I would have spent commissioning these songs with artists in the first place. So it's not like I feel I really saved myself any money either. But there's one more main thing that I always keep in mind when making the show, and it's to do my best at the end to deliver you a good episode, one where I'm proud of the story arc, even if it means waiting a really long time to finish it, and even if it means eating a bit of humble pie after an overambitious beginning. In the end, it came down to trust. I had one bad experience getting AI music and was like, oh no, I can't trust anybody now, and retreated into my shell. In my shell, I could control all the aspects and make my own schedule, and hey, shells are known to have pretty good acoustics. Ha-poo, ha-ha. But, continuing this analogy, in a shell, I only have what was already in there. If I need or want some complementary skills from someone else, I'm out of luck. And right now, I could use a bunch of complementary skills a lot more than I could use all this complete control. So I head back over to Fiverr and start looking for artists. And I just asked directly in my first message to them if they use AI in their song making, along with telling them the other details of what I'm doing. I also looked for musicians who had been doing this for more than a couple of years, figuring that if they were making songs for people before AI music, then it's very possible or likely that they still do it the same way. I found 3 artists, set each one up with one of these melodies, and started 3 orders at the same time. Now, can they lie and use AI anyway? Sure. Would I actually be able to tell the difference? Probably not, but I've done my best to be upfront that I'm not interested in that touching my projects, and maybe the move is just to put some trust in these people, human to human, and rely on that. And I'm also looking to save my sanity here. This has been an open loop in my brain that I haven't been able to close for so long, but maybe with the help of other people from across the world, we can close this loop together. And then I can go back to refining the pieces of the story, the part that I enjoy and am motivated and passionate about, the part where the hours spent don't feel like a waste or a grind. When the first song came back, I knew I had made the right call. Not only was it remarkably fast, the collaboration experience was just something I had really missed. In cutting off any avenues where people might use AI on me, I had also cut off all avenues to collaborate with other people too, a thing that turns out to be a pretty pivotal part of what I enjoy about this whole process, which all came flooding back as soon as I hit play. This is the first song, the Rain Song, done by Fiverr artist Kevin PTM. It's great. He turned that little 20-second melody I gave him into this. Then the second song came back, and I was floored again, this time for the xylophone song, which at one point sounded like... And in my head, it was basically this French song. But now, thanks to Happy Music, it ended up sounding like this. Even just building up like this, it's way fuller than anything I could craft. And as Alex was talking about, I feel like this could be good motion music. Let's see if it works for the Saga of the Shower song. I commissioned this one from an artist named Sahil P. Like the others, he says he does everything from scratch, no AI. His gig also says 1-day delivery. I like his samples, so I hire him and send all the details, just like the other songs. And this guy, you're about to go on a journey with me about Sahil P. He says, okay, wait, we'll check soon. Right now I am outside. No rush at all, I reply, take your time. So day 1, this is the day it's due, I get a message saying, for the update, I am working on it, man. Okay, no big deal, I think. I did say no rush after all. Then on day 2, I ask how it's going, if he needed anything else from me. He says, sure, man, we'll send you soon. After my check-in on day 5, he says, hey, I am working on it, we'll give you an update between 12 hours. When I check back on day 6, he says, only mixes are left, man. It is pretty decent motion music, right? On day 8, I hear back and he's outside again, this time for a funeral. He says, bro, give me a little time, and I say fine. On day 9, everything is done, he says, just delivery left and some master. Day 11, I ask, are you still there? He responds, hey bro, I'm here, sorry I was busy yesterday, we'll send you tonight, working on your proj. And then, I guess as proof, he sends me a picture of his screen. But by that I mean, it's a photo of a screen, a photograph of an open laptop with a screen that is turned off. That was his picture of working on it for me. He continues to respond only after I ping him. Day 12. Bro, sorry for the delay, I need some hours already working on it, promise we'll deliver you under 12 hours. Day 13. Bro, I can send you in the morning. Today is my day off. Tomorrow we'll deliver you 100%. We'll send you tomorrow. Don't worry, man. Wake up and send you. Day 15, he says, tonight. Day 16, I'm poking him, and I tell him I've started talking with another musician, which was true. This actually gets some movement, and he asked me to send him details of what I want. As in so he could start work on it for the first time, to be clear. This whole time, he had just been putting it off and avoiding it, which I think he was feeling bad about. But I'm like, actually, buddy, you couldn't have picked a better project to do this on, because that same thing is sort of the reason I'm here in the first place. But I'm still reminding him frequently that I'm talking to someone else for real, and I will use them if this doesn't work. But I do really want it to work. And as I was kind of complaining to him about it sort of taking so long, we started bonding over stuff, talking about our day jobs. We talked about our income and rent struggles while going back and forth a lot. At one point I say, "I'm worried, you seem to be overloaded." Sahil says, "Hey man, chill, I am a guy just like you, just barrier in English." Day 17, a message that says "done" with a song attached. I almost can't believe it, but it's a real file, it's there. Sahil says, "Ha ha ha, bro, you're actually a really good person. From the first time we've talked, I noticed that you have a lot of patience." He says he enjoyed my organ track, and the good thing is that you played the instrument at a really nice tempo, which made it easier for me to sample and work with. Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that, but thank you, Sahil. So here again is a little taste of what I had given Sahil to work with. And now here's the new version of the shower song from Sahil P. How cool is this, right? You can hear the little bits he kept, and then like the rest is so reimagined. I love it. Sahil did apologize a bunch for it taking as long as it did, especially since it became clear that he hadn't really started on it at all until way late and had been kind of lying. But then I told him how the path that had brought me to him had circled a lot around procrastinating and getting behind on a project, so I might understand what that's like pretty well, and that's part of why I was so patient and didn't cancel the order earlier, because I really did want this one to work out. I also found out the real reason this may have taken so long, which was Sahil was in sort of a standoff with Fiverr over funds they wouldn't give him, and my order payment wouldn't have even gotten to him if he'd completed it. So we worked out a very human dance indeed, and after he had already sent me the files, I was allowed to cancel the order due to how late it was and got my money back for it. Sahil had given me his PayPal address over Instagram, which I had gotten to through his YouTube. I mean, by this point, we had been messaging all over the place. But also at this point, I had the completed song and I had the money back, and it was Sahil's turn to put his trust in me, because I could have just vanished. But I sent him payment and a tip to do my part for humans keeping up faith in humanity. And we bonded so much that he said I can crash at his spot anytime I am where he lives, Chandigarh, India. I mean, how perfect an ending is that? All 3 songs are finally done. They also sound so much better than I ever could have gotten them, which means I'm very happy I went back on my original plan now. Changing course got me through my block, past my frustration, and back into my groove. Like a lot of things I chew on and churn on for far too long, I really should have just made that decision way earlier. I guess the overarching lesson here for me is one of hubris. The idea that I could just do every piece of everything myself, mainly because I suddenly put forth the briefest amount of effort. Well, they say pride goeth before the fall. For me, it was the winter or spring and part of the summer too. Oh, are you a fan of that joke, Alex?
Yeah, it's great. Perfect.
Okay. And I was reminded that when I let my perfectionism turn into procrastination and I put stuff off and tell myself it's so it can simmer or cook or whatever, it's just as likely, if not more so, to go bad or turn stale on me instead. Nothing really new or revolutionary here. In fact, it reinforced some of the first things you ever learn in elementary school: the danger of procrastination, the value of collaboration, and the importance of honest communication. And with that, the $5 couch, that big orange 2-part upholstered giant, finally becomes the next entry into the Perfectorium, the index of perfect things. The chord organ and the whip don't make it, no. Maybe the only fitting thing I can do with these things to emulate the couch trajectory is to donate them back out into the world, with the optimism that next they could end up in the hands of people who really need them, You know, like a peg-legged musician looking for that pirate song sound, or a super confident lion tamer who doesn't mind a whip that gets a little bit shorter every time you use it. Then I stopped moving them around with me, the same way I had to give up my couch when it was finally time to move to Japan too. And they've done their job of helping me make this story, which was the whole reason I got them in the first place. You can see all the entries to the Perfectorium, including this one, at the direct link for it, perfectshowpodcast.com/perfectorium. Go to the show's website, perfectshowpodcast.com, to see pictures and videos related to each episode. This time I have some more pictures of the couch I found when I went to my parents' house for the holidays, complete with a picture of teenage me, as well as the pic of Sahil's computer and empty water bottle that showed me music was definitely happening over there. Thank you to Alex Goldman and Nick Messitte for coming on the show, and thank you to Kevin PTM, Hoppy Music, and Sahil P for the redone versions of the songs. You can find the info and links for all the musical artists in the show notes and on this episode's webpage. I was so hoping to be just like, the music in this episode is all by me, but yeah, no. As always, if you'd like to contact the show, you can email perfectshowshow@gmail.com and find me on any socials I'm on at just my name, Scot Maupin. That's Scott with one T and Maupin. Here's where I usually say to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. The show comes out whenever with no rhyme or reason, so subscribing is the easiest and maybe only way to know when a new one comes out. I've also been leaving reviews each episode for other shows to demonstrate the free and frictionless way you can support your favorite podcasts, or they don't even have to be like your favorite shows. They can just be the ones that you're like listening to at whatever random moment, like just say like right now, for instance, even. Today, of course, I'm going to be leaving a 5-star review for Nick and John Make a Song. Okay, iPad out, open up the purple podcasts app that just says podcasts, hit the search bar, Nick and John, Jon, Make a Song. It didn't pop up, so I'm hitting search. There it is. The cover is like this trippy cartoon image of Nick's face and John's face that overlap to make a third face in the middle. It's cool. Scroll down to the bottom where the stars are, and I tap write a review. Be back right after I type this. Here it is. Title, really charming, they know their stuff. Review, Nick and John have a great rapport. I like hearing them just shoot the breeze as well as get their music brains spooled up to work some audio engineering magic in the second half. Fascinating and funny, great podcast. 5 stars. This episode was recorded and mixed at Milky Way Studios in Oakland, California. And remember, when it comes down to it, music is really just a matter of personal preference. There is no right or wrong.
God, it sounds so good.
No, Alex, this is the bad stuff.
Oh, it sounds amazing.
Oh, well, thanks, Alex. That means a lot coming from you.
It's so good. It made me want to become Christian.
Oh, okay. That was unexpected.
Yeah, it kind of surprises me too now that I've said it out loud.
Anyway, until next time, I'm Scot Maupin, and thanks for listening to The Perfect Show.
I can eat 50 eggs.
It's my cat, Corn Dog.
That is an incredibly charming name for a cat.
His full name, my daughter would want me to tell you, his full name is Cornelius Hot Dog, and it's shortened to Corn Dog. So it gets ridiculous.
I don't blame her for wanting me to know that.